just first, I'm thrilled to be here with you guys on stage because this is, for my taste anyway, one of the best European shows I have seen this year. I only have seen the first 2 episodes, but yet still, it's a great job done. Congratulations, I loved it. Yeah. First, a quick talk about the industry of series in your country today. I mean, would Tabula Rasa have it been possible to produce, write, or direct, let's say, 10 years ago?
No, 10 years ago, not, I think. I think in Belgium, and especially in Flanders, because we're from the Flemish region, we are very lucky to have a system where not only the TV stations, and especially the public broadcaster, we will talk about it, invests a lot in quality drama, but aside of that, we have what we call the media fund, which is a fund that spends, depending from year to year, a few million euros on quality TV drama series, especially on series. And since the existence of the media fund, I think it started 5-6 years ago, that gave an enormous boost to this kind of TV.
It was a game-changing.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, because the special thing about that fund, of course, you need a TV station. I mean, it would be totally absurd to produce a TV series without a TV station. But it gave an enormous amount of freedom towards the creative side. So of course, there's, and we'll talk about that later, a lot of conflicts following out of that. But the interesting thing is that the mix of a media fund that really specializes in go for the best ideas, try to make them as international as possible, and try to have the best TV stations as possible. So it gave an enormous boost, yes.
Can you tell us things about it?
Yeah, I think that's really an important thing. Also, the Tech Shelter did a great thing for drama series and for the film industry, for the industry in total. And I also think we're kind of, well, being a small territory, we're very lucky that our spectators really like our content, and that we have, because of not too big budgets, we have kind of a lot of very creative producers and production companies in the country. So then came the media fund and now the tax shelter. So it's kind of good to really settle the industry as an industry that can grow and do beautiful things as Tabula Rasa, and also as a public broadcaster we try to do our best within the cuts in the budget, but we still try to invest in drama series, and we talk a lot with the producers to see how you can fund them and try to put them together.
Does it mean that with that system, how many dramas of that scale do you have per year? Or could you have?
Yeah, well, we try to do like 2 to 3, depending on the budgets that are that are going around, not only at our station but also at the media fund and how things develop. But we try to do like 2 to 3 and in the best case 4, but it's not every year that we can get there. And it's also changing because we're trying to be very open to look at all kinds of ways of putting together the budget and cooperation with in any way. We always want to look at that and talk about it to see whether it's with a distributor or a platform within our country or with a co-producing with another broadcaster or and try to be as open as possible because in the end what we want to do is bring as much good content to the spectators as we can.
Sure. Okay. So what is the format of a series? It's 9 episodes, I believe? Yeah.
It's 9 episodes, 9 times 50 minutes, yes.
What was the budget?
The budget, finally, we ended up, I think, with something roughly, don't take me, I should know it by heart, but it's something like 6.5 million euros, I think. I think we ended up with between 700 and 800,000 euros per episode. We started with less, but while shooting, we did realize that we really had a problem. We needed more shooting days, so We were lucky enough that ZDF Neo stepped on board in the middle of the shooting, in fact, which is amazing for co-production. But that helped us a lot. So we ended up with 107 shooting days, which is 12 days per episode. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 days per episode. Okay. Is this a possible returning series? Or is this only one season thing?
That will depend. no, it's not written. Let's say no. It is possible. It's not written.
It's possible. I mean, with the story, is it?
Yes, it is. It's always possible, of course. But this is a closed story. After 9 episodes, it's really constructed, very detailed. Towards in the last episode, the last minute, you'll understand everything. And of course, you can make a second season, and we're always willing. But out of commercial reasons, there's story-wise, there's no need. No.
So okay, we are going to speak now about the origin of the series. Can you explain how Tabula Rasa has come to life with Marlene Saragosin?
Yes, I have to. Again, I said it yesterday. I don't know if everybody was here. Marlene Saragosin is the showrunner and creator of the series. She's giving birth. Started yesterday. But her water broke 2 hours ago, so I suppose there are some things happening right now. But Marlene, I'll explain a little bit. Marlene is someone who works exclusively in our company, Caviar. She wrote her first TV series, I think 5-6 years ago. That was Clan, also known as The Outlaws. And she used to be a junior producer.
She has a first look with you, or she's...
It's not even a first look. She's
part of the company?
She's part of the company,
okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. She used to be a junior producer in the company, but we saw that she was a huge literary talent. She wrote incredibly nice treatments. So a few years ago, she came up with this treatment for TV series. We went to the commercial TV station then. And they loved it, and we started shooting it. It became a success. And we tried to establish a showrunner system which didn't exist at that moment in Belgium. Marlene has been thinking, when Clan was finished, about the next series. But as a coincidence, Veerle Bates, the actress that you saw, who used to work for the commercial TV station in some kind of exclusive contract, she had some ambitions to write also. Now, she never wrote a script, but we knew her very well. She had very good ideas. So Veerle and Marlene teamed up to see what can we do together. And they started not from a story, but just from a character. They have been constructing this character around what Veerle would like to play.
Yeah.
And out of the character came the theme, in fact, and the genre. The psychological thriller followed immediately after it. And Marlene was already long times working on the idea of amnesia and on the themes of fear and losing. And when all these things mixed together, suddenly they had a treatment, first treatment of a pilot, the Bible. We connected a third scriptwriter with it, Christophe Dirks. First of all, also to have one male approach in this story, and also because he has a lot of experience, so to a little bit, of course,
to structure things.
Yeah, to structure things a little bit. So and then we came up to the treatments, the first episodes, first drafts. We started searching for directors, and there was a very specific need because already at that moment, at that point in the script, we knew that there were going to be some horror elements in the script, which is very specific. I mean, it's so frightening, horror. If it's not done well, it's really total shit. It can ruin everything. And there's not a lot of people who have this sensibility, so we were extremely lucky that the one director that we wanted to attach to the project said yes. So we made a mix, well, no, we proposed it to them. They read these first drafts, and we tried to make a mix between someone with a very strong visual approach, like Jonas, and someone whom we worked with in Clan, Carl Beels, the second director, who is very strong in actors directing. Now, the two good directors, they know everything, of course. And that's where it all started.
Okay, so I mean, you had only 2 episodes, first 2 episodes when you talked.
I've got a bad memory like this woman, but I think it were only the first 2 episodes. I think, yeah, when we showed something to you the first time.
I think I received all the treatments for the 9 episodes, but yes, yeah, and I think the 2 first were written.
Okay, does it mean that you talked about, I mean, colors and music, maybe, I don't know, even sounds and artistic direction mainly with a showrunner that soon?
Yes, that's what excited me, that Malin, I suggested color coding characters like those very Hitchcockian things, and looking at, instead of contemporary TV, looking more at 70s cinema, movies like The Changeling by Peter Medak or Don't Look Now. And Malin is obviously a big horror fan, so as soon as I got the green light to do that kind of stuff, we decided to go all the way. And from that stage on, we did that for all the episodes, basically.
It was green lighted at that moment.
Well, green light is a very strange system in our country.
Oh, you too, in your country too. Okay.
No. It has to do with our way of working. I must admit, I'm going to mention this because I think it's interesting. We started developing this project for another TV station, in fact, for a commercial TV station. And but we were not far in the scripts. We had the treatments. We had the first drafts of a few episodes. When there was a small change of politics in the commercial TV station for whom we were working, very understandable. We all know that commercial TV stations, they have a huge problem with time-shifted viewing and with all fiction and drama series. Basically, they're too expensive for them. So at a certain moment, from the beginning, we knew which genre we were going to make. But the dark tonality of the genre, of course, it's not something you want 8, 9, 10 years old children to see at 8 o'clock in the evening. So for the TV station at a certain moment in the development, there was this demand to make it available for co-viewing, for families, for children also. And that was a problem for us, because we could do 2 things, or change.
You bet it was a problem,
or we could change the project, or we could change the station.
We were, what, in 2014, 2013?
Something like that, 2014,
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah. So at that moment, it was a very painful moment, because normally, of course, you work for a station, you work for the public of a station, and it's a very, you can put everything in contracts, but it's not about contracts, it's about
the premise of the show.
Yes, exactly. So we made a difficult choice at that moment to go to the public broadcaster to see if they had a feeling with it. They had, luckily. We were really very happy with it. It was a painful moment. Today, we had long discussions with the commercial station. I think it's totally solved. They understand why we did it, but it was very painful, because it's like, you start something together. It's like when you marry also, you think it will be forever, and if it's broken up already after 3 months, it's really
you're talking to me, yes, Okay. Does it mean that it is possible to do Tabula Rasa today on public television in your country, and you can do Tabula Rasa on... Sorry,
I was not listening, I was thinking about
well, I think it was a very interesting moment when Helen Perqui, who was the executive producer on Tabula Rasa, brought it to us, and then actually what they also told us was, this is what we're going to do, we need freedom for this, do you want to step in, but you have to leave us doing this with a lot of freedom, or we're not going to get where we want to be. So it was kind of a very straightforward question, and also, but they also told us, like, we're very confident that if we can do this with you guys, we can get there.
Does the presence of Veerle Battens, who's a huge star in your country, helped?
Yes, we must admit that it did help a lot, of course. I don't think as a production company we would have taken that risk if Veerle Battens would not have been connected to the project. I don't think it would have worked. But
understand that.
No, so that was, of course, one of the things that was very interesting for us, and but also, well, still, we're really excited about this project, because we're a public broadcaster focusing on 4+, like everyone, And so I'm really excited to see how the public will react, because it's really kind of the next step on our channel. We had Beau Séjour.
It was a great show.
So which was always also with Kaat Beels, who was the director of Beau Séjour, who was also on Tabula Rasa. So there already we were kind of excited to see, like, for a public broadcaster, it's not always easy to do these things, but I also think that we're the ones that I think they made a good. That was a good judgment to do so. That as a public broadcaster, it's our duty to try to do things like this. Although we might. In the beginning, there might be some people that really make a step in their head and be able to not follow this like very straightforward police crime and now step into kind of a next step, but also learn to get in touch with new ways of storytelling, the different narratives, the different elements that Jonas brought in.
We are going to talk about that, of course. Do you have the feeling? Do you have the feeling that you have to take the risk today to greenlight that kind of show?
Yeah, I really think we have to.
And why?
Why? Because everything, all the content is just available for everyone, and it's a bit strange that like viewers. When they watch a platform and watch edgy series, then that's what they expect. But then sometimes when they come back to the public broadcaster, they have kind of this classic mindset where they just watched like a series, they binge watched it the whole afternoon, and then they come to us, and then they're not maybe able or willing is a better expression to step into these things, although it's only the one button next to the other. Yes. And for us, I think it's very important also to open up in all kind of ways, genre, ways of telling, and because not only to teach people to watch these things, but also definitely not to underestimate our viewers, how they are used to see all these kind of things. So, but of course, we're also trying to find a mix. That's the good thing, that if you can do a few series a year, that you kind of try to find a mix and where you can put something like Tabula Rasa, but also more straightforward, classical ways of storytelling.
Okay. So how long from the first idea to the first day of shooting, to set up a scale?
How long? I think something like 2.5 years, 3 years. Yeah.
3 years in development. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we developed quite long. We take our time for everything, every stage.
Yeah, that's good.
For the simple reason. We all know that investing in development, investing time, it adds to the quality. That's one thing. We have very small production region, not very small anymore, a small production region. So we have to make a difference somewhere, and the difference has to be in the quality, and quality comes out of time.
Of work.
Work, yes, of course. You can also be sitting in a restaurant during 3 years, but
yeah, why not? What was the most difficult thing to achieve during this writing process?
I think during this writing to mix the ideas of Malin and Veerle, for the simple reason, of course, you have a very good actress with very good ideas, very emotional approach of a story. At the one hand, then you have this showrunner, creator, who's very perfectionist and has a very detailed idea in her head that's already in one sense written out before she starts writing. Mix these two characters, that was really challenging, very interesting, not always easy, not for them, Veerle takes everything very personally. That's, I think, one of the reasons why she's such a great actress.
She's working like that, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And but it's very vulnerable, and so sometimes we had to work as an in-betweener between the two of them, although they're good friends, and I think for the two of them it was a huge, incredible experience.
Veerle left the writing process during a shooting period, which I know because it was for my show, but
yes. Yeah.
But how does the showrunner manage to work without Veerle? How does it evolve? And when Veerle has returned to the project, how does?
Well, I think from the moment she left for your project, she had to take a little bit more distance.
Yeah.
I think Malin always kept communicating, of course, and
yeah.
Veerle also. It's their child. It's really their child and the director's child. Yeah. So they never left it. But Malin, it's almost. She works so incredibly hard. She works 25 hours a day. Yeah. Even now, whilst giving birth, she's working on these TVs.
Yeah, really?
Yes, absolutely. so when Veerle is someone you know that as an actress, she goes so deep into the characters she plays. Yeah. And this started already in the writing process of this series. Yeah. So she went so deep in it. I think I have enormous respect for that because it's really painful for her. Yeah. But so I'm sure that during the nights when she was shooting for you, she was not sleeping but still working on this.
Yeah, I'm sure that. Can we talk about the structure of the story? I mean, the past, present, dream, flashback thing, which should have been something quite interesting to write and direct. And was it a challenge? It's always a challenge. I mean,
I was most afraid to go into editing because every cut you see going from past to present or the other way around, it was all on paper. And basically, Malin didn't write what the shot should be, but it was written in a way that, okay, it has to be the shot. So I was afraid.
Everyone, you mean?
No, I mean, on the paper, it was written so well that you could see, oh, she wants this kind of shot. But this structure is so airtight that I thought, if this doesn't work and we have to shuffle things in the edit, it's going to fall apart because these two lines, it's little things like you have a birthday party in the past and you see a piece of cake in the present. Yeah. That was all on paper. So
of course,
from the moment if a scene's not working, you're in trouble. But luckily, once we got into the edit, we noticed that Veerle and Malin did such a good job on the script that all worked flawlessly. But that was my big fear, like, okay, we can shoot it the way you want it, but let's see if it works in the edit. And apparently they were prepared so well that it did work in the edit. So that was the big challenge there.
It would have been my fear too. So.
No, just we had to accept the fact that we are working with a subjective main character. Someone who's absolutely, in the beginning of the story, not aware of what's happening.
You have to be lost with her.
Yes, yeah. So as a public, you take the same journey, which is a risk, of course, because you do realize, as Malin did realize very well, as a creator, that it would not be easy for a public to step into this series. And you need a little bit of time. It has to do with the idea. Now, in her construction, I can assure you, there's a very incredibly strong midpoint in the series where everything changes. Everything works
after the fourth episode?
I'm not going to say where exactly what episode because it would change the view. Somewhere in the middle. And that's really amazing because a lot has to do with the approach of the dynamic of this story. The dynamic of episode 1 goes rather slow and you grow into it. In second episodes 2, you have a little more. You feel that as being a public, it starts working totally differently. And from this midpoint, it's not another series, but there's a huge richness suddenly injected into the structure, which gives a total different dynamic.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least that's what we hope.
Was that structure an issue with you, with the podcaster? I mean, it's always difficult to tell stories that way.
Well, I think it's. I think they were very right by the very beginning that they asked us to have a lot of freedom, and it's about trust. I think there and working together to find a way, and we talked a lot all the way through, and definitely when we were in the editing room, but it's as I said, when we kind of finished the rough cuts, then I understood actually the question from the very beginning, like we need to, because otherwise we're not gonna get there. And also, well, that's a bit of a funny story. I only got into the project when they started shooting, and then we all decided on not telling me how the story would go. So when we were having meetings, they were all kind of laughing from the things I was saying, because I was saying stupid things or good things I couldn't know. Because then so we decided to do that too, so that I could only step in from the first rough cuts, which was very interesting. So because the lady I'm working with, the dramaturg at VRT, she did the whole writing process, and then it was very interesting that the both of us could kind of, with a fresh view, she with a very background, she followed it all the way through, and I could come as a real viewer, and also from what our viewers' perspective would be. Like more, I would sit there and try to be like the normal viewer for our channel, and I think that worked really well to go through every step to see, and also for the creators, I think it was interesting to see what does it do with someone who is not knowing what is happening or going on, and yeah, that's what I think is fun part, that when you watch the series the second time, it's even more interesting. Yeah, but that's difficult to explain.
No, you cannot explain that. That's true.
It's great. So you have directed everything that in the past, right? And the other director?
There was some overlap, but the general idea was that I would do the past storyline and Kat would do the present storyline. But I did, when there was bigger visual set pieces in the present, I would storyboard with Malin, and Kat would concentrate on like the family dynamic kind of scene. So I thought it was an interesting balance. So each episode is directed by the both of us, really.
Oh, you storyboard with Malin, yeah.
Well, I present. I like to do that, and because it's. I think for TV, especially Flemish TV, it can get quite ambitious sometimes. So we needed to know that on the budget we had, that we could pull off the kind of things we wanted to do.
How many cameras did you have? 2? 1?
Usually 1, and for some bigger stunts, 2, but never more than 2.
Yeah, but you were in the house, so one is enough.
No, that's 1. That's all single camera. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How many days of shooting again per episode? 12, yeah?
I think it ended up being 11 per episode?
12.
12, okay.
12. Yeah. So everything was cross-bordered. You have shot all the nights?
No, it caught up with me, because it was we didn't realize, or I didn't realize how ambitious and difficult it was going to be. So once it got going, I had storyboarded a lot in advance, but not everything. And then as the shoot got going, it was such an intense experience that it kind of caught up with me after a while. But the big set pieces, I did end up storyboarding all of them, yes.
Okay. Sound design and music are very important for that kind of stories. Did you talk about that soon enough?
Marlon and I, or everyone, the whole creative team, were talking about it early on.
How old are you? What does it mean for
like months or?
Months?
Yeah, a couple of months. It's been
Were you able to go on the set, for example?
Oh no.
No,
I wish. I was involved after the edit process, well, like towards the end.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. What has changed in the story during the shooting process?
In the story?
Yeah, in the show.
Very little, because it was so airtight on paper, like I said. We were just worried.
What did you discover about the show during the shooting process?
That you need to prepare to work with veel abates. You need to be ready, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean, obviously.
Yeah. No, she's great. She's great.
No, I think much like Lachlan, I discovered that if you need to work fast, you can work fast, and that's a television thing that I wasn't used to, and I was very afraid of. Like, I don't have the time to do what I want.
This is your first TV
yes,
show.
and I hesitated for a long time after I was asked, because all I have done is one movie.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready, but no one's ever ready, I guess. And if you step into something like this, but you learn to work fast after a while.
Yeah.
And
Isn't it great? It's great, no?
to work fast? No, it's horrible.
No, not to work fast, but to make TV shows.
No, it is fun, and it's a very different. And I never stopped seeing this as a 9-hour movie, to be honest. I never approached it as a television show, and I hope it shows.
Yeah.
Okay. And equally with the music, we didn't want to go for the. There is a sound, I think, in Flemish TV that is very familiar, and it ends up being the same musicians doing the same thing. Not bad, but to me very familiar. So I tried to get someone in that had a fresh eye on everything and a fresh ear.
This is your first show too.
Yeah, first TV series. Yeah.
First TV series. Okay. Did you set up themes for first? I mean.
Yeah, we sort of that was the first sort of step.
You found the melodic generic bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things to play with, especially with like going into the past and present, and yeah, it was quite a wide variety of
You're
sounds.
working at home in a studio, maybe.
Yeah, I've got a studio. Yeah. So I bring some musicians in, and we yeah.
Great. So on the set, who had the artistic authority?
The artistic what? Sorry.
Authority.
Marlene was always there over my shoulder.
Yeah.
But she only stepped in if I made a mistake when story-wise. So if I hadn't done my homework, I was left completely free. But as soon as I missed the tiniest detail about the overall story, she'd be there. And I was afraid of having a showrunner is quite a new concept in Flanders.
Exactly, and I'd like to say something about that, because I think it's really interesting how we did it. First, we did it with Marlene on Clan for the first time. She asked to be a showrunner, and we discussed a long time about it, because basically, if you want to work with directors that have already a very interesting CV behind them, an interesting project, you're not going to reduce them to people who just say action and cuts. You want these people because they have some new ideas, because they can make your ideas stronger. So if you, as a showrunner on sets, want to have the final word on everything, it doesn't work that way. You have to give the director the space, the flexibility that's needed. So what we said is, on Clan, Marlene, you're the showrunner, but first, never speak directly to actors. And secondly, if you have some remarks, tell them to the director, but just do it very normal. Tell them, don't interrupt while doing a take or whatever.
Yeah.
I was a little bit afraid of it, but it worked so well and it went so easily. Of course, not all the actors like it, but suddenly the actors themselves started talking to her, and it went smoother than I thought. Now on Tabula Rasa, of course, because there was this mix. That was not one director, one episode, but one director, one genre. And also the DOPs were a little bit connected to that. That didn't work out 100%, but that was the idea. So we definitely needed someone who was aware of everything, of every decision, because they're not together on set, these directors, of course.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So again, usually this kind of story is very demanding in work time and money in post-production. Was it true to Tabula Rasa?
Was it what? Was it
true to Tabula Rasa?
Yes, absolutely. We made a deliberate choice, for example, in post-production. We absolutely wanted to work with one editor who was not available, so we just waited until he was available.
Oh.
And I know also from a financial and commercial point of view, it's not too smart.
So but you have waited for the editor?
Yes, we waited for the editor, and we had to wait. We wrapped, and then we still had to wait, I think, 1 month, and then he started editing.
Great, it's great.
It's a question of trust. If sometimes you need to do it. We had been hesitating also to work with different editors, but knowing that we already had different directors, we were afraid that that was not going to work. So I'm very happy we did it, but yes, it takes a lot of time now. I think that the the expenses of post-production is always exaggerated. Offline editing doesn't cost anything. If you compare it to what a show costs, so you better invest a little bit more in it, a little bit more time, because you hardly see it in the budget, but you see it in the result.
Yeah. So, how much time did you have to write the music?
It was a few months before the sort of initial delivery process, but yeah, it was still sort of finishing up the last pieces. So yeah, it's quite a quick. I'm not used to this like quick turnaround with television. I did a feature film before this one, and I was in the editing process for like a year, so it's like quite a big contrast. But yeah.
Is this software instruments and virtual instruments?
Well, yeah, it's weird because there's a lot of like atmospheric cues. So there's a lot of like synthesizer, and I would kind of manipulate like real strings to sound really kind of crazy. But yeah, we'd have like a regular roster of musicians who come in and would record the score.
So can you describe your creative process with the showrunner?
Yeah, sure. So, so we had like the few like main themes that were kind of appear in the show. I did them early on, recorded those. But I also have this. I'm kind of all over the place with how I do it. But if we're kind of feeling a good vibe in the studio, we'll try and record some future cues. I'll be like, oh, that weird thing you did on the violin sounds great. Let's try that out in this scene. So some of the cues kind of came out like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a free process. There wasn't like I wrote everything and then we all recorded it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fluid kind of thing.
Okay, great. You were in the editing room?
Yes. Yeah, we divided our time, the two directors. So we decided to do, I think I did 4 episodes and Kaat did 5 with the edit, yeah.
Okay. With the music, at the end of the editing room, you had the music only in the mixing at the end of
no, there was a lot of temp music used, and that was then sent to Lachlan, and it kind of caught up.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
So bringing all the pieces together at the end, what all of you have discovered about Tabula Rasa? Because when I write and direct shows, I always discover important things about the shows at the end. Mm-hmm. What have you discovered about your show?
Well, of course, you always learn a lot. I think what was really interesting for me about this one is that as a producer, you always want to push the limits of a project a little bit further, even if you do realize that money-wise, you cannot cope with it. So I kind of discovered that we went a little bit over the limit of pushing creative talent into our ambition. They made us very well aware of it, but I think it's our task. You have to go to a certain point where you think this is almost too far, and maybe we went a little bit too far from time to time. So I really hope for the next project we will have a little bit more budget. And the problem is it's never about budget, it's never about money, but again, it's about time connected to ambition. And I think we were really ambitious. I'm very happy for it, but maybe at a certain point a slight bit too ambitious. Although it's absurd to say this because I'm really glad we did this. Yeah.
For you? When?
Sorry, I actually missed the question.
What was the what have you discovered in your work of making in the making of this music?
I've learned a lot of technical things that I haven't known before, and telling a story, like this is like, yeah, like it sounds pretty basic, but yeah, just the way everyone works and the way the music sort of tells the story I learned quite a lot from working with Marlon and the crew. So yeah.
Okay, and you?
To me, I discovered the talent of Marlon, and I discovered that I was quite arrogant going in because I thought, I'll do a little television show in between movies, and it ended up being something hopefully very important, but also I didn't grasp the scope and the ambition of the project on paper. I thought, okay, this is fun, I can play with some horror elements, but then seeing it and the way it clicked together in the edit, I'm like, I was impressed, like, oh, this is really, really well constructed. And it's not only the plotting is very impressive, but emotionally it's all working, and there's no loose ends in the end. And I didn't really grasp that when I read it. I just thought, oh, this would be something fun in between, which it never is, of course. It's always eats up your life some way. Yeah. But that was my discovery.
Oh, that's great. And may I ask the same question for you?
Yeah, well, as I said, it took my breath away all through the process. Also, I must say I'm not really confident with this genre. So for me, it was also kind of discover this kind of genre and then how would we cope with that on our channel. So, but it took my breath away every time, and then in the end, as I said, it was very as you when you're making something, of course, we watch it like I think 5 or 6 times. Then it was great fun to see it again, which makes that it's kind of funny how the story is well thought through and how they did it. And I think it's I also think it was very ambitious from Caviar, but also the people who worked on it. It was incredible to see how they all were so ambitious, and it was, I think that Frank is really right by saying that there was a very ambitious executive producer, then you had Malin, Verle, Kaat, Jonas, so a lot of people who are very ambitious, and there was, I think it was sometimes a bit too much ambition in one room, but in the end you felt that they all had the love for Tabula Rasa, and it's fantastic to see how the love, even the ambition of very strong characters can come together to pull out an energy and to bring out this kind of project. So that was great to see, although I also was kind of at certain points a bit worried of, oh my God, I hope everybody stays on his feet to get to the end.
Yeah, okay, great. Great. Thanks for your answers and for being here with us today. Is there any question? Yeah. About what? Sorry? About? Yeah, thank you.
Just a question about the, are you going to diffuse also in the French-speaking country, in Wallonia?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Are you going to diffuse also, to broadcast also in the French-speaking?
Well, we definitely hope so. The sales are being done by ZDF Enterprise, and it's a strange thing in Belgium that Belgian series are regional series, so it's very difficult to show a Flemish-spoken series on Walloon television, and vice versa. It happens, luckily, thanks to the kind of series people like him make, things are changing, but we don't know yet. My gut feeling says yes, of course, but it's not sold yet.
I'm sure it will be had, I hope. Is there another question? No question at all? We have said everything? You sure? Oh.
One question about ZDF Neo. How big was the influence of ZDF Neo on the budget and on the content?
What was the influence of ZDF on the project?
No, it's a good question.
Content-wise and
no,
the budget.
It's an interesting question because it's always, of course, in the relationship between a production and a broadcaster or distributor, it's always a very vulnerable relationship. Well, their influence was, in one sense, extremely positive because what really amazed me was that ZDF Enterprises, they stepped into the project based on the scripts, and they let us do. They honestly, it's to say it really a little bit simplistic, they paid, and they said, and now come back with something brilliant. So that was really wonderful. Of course, it was a little bit more difficult when, in the middle of the production, ZDF Neo stepped in as a co-producer, because where we had to find, normally in a co-production, you have this development time to find your communication, to find your language, and this was really difficult here. I think we managed finally, but that was more difficult because a co-producer stepping in the middle of a production, it's rather exceptional, and we didn't have any experience in that. Neither did they. But I think they're finally very happy with it. So.
Yeah, and if I may add, it was also very interesting that they kind of pushed the project to the final level because they were kind of very specific on, although they were very late in the process to step in, they were very specific on where they wanted to be the budget spent in the project, which was great, I think, because we went from 90 days was in the beginning, and then
I think we started with 95 and we ended up with 107, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a good thing, and also for the part Jonas did on special effects, it gave kind of the last boost the project needed, and it was very good to see that because of that, and also in talking to them, that they were really right by I think by even opening up even more the possibilities for the series to this last step it actually needed, and I think that was a great thing. Yeah, on the story at that moment was.
No, but it's true. But I think, and that's a lesson we can learn for every TV series. I think you can make an extremely good TV series, but to make it work internationally, to sell it internationally, you also need production value. And production value is quality. Quality is money. Money is time. It's really simple.
Yeah. Is there a last question? Yeah. Yeah.
We've heard a lot about how you worked with VRT locally, but what are your expectations internationally from the international reception? So outside of Belgium, do you think this will become, or are you expecting that to become a reference series from Flemish Belgium, or you haven't thought of it at all?
If this is going to become a reference series?
Yeah.
Yes, of course, we think about it all the time.
Internationally, like globally, do you think in the US they will speak
yes,
about it? Or,
yeah, no, I think it would be extremely pretentious of us to think that this would be the next reference series. Of course, you hope that in the mixing of the genres, you do something new. All these people, all the creative people connecting to this project come out of feature film. We already, as a production company, 10 years ago, we were feature filmmakers, and we started with TV drama, because honestly, I don't believe in this difference between TV drama and cinema. It doesn't exist. Sometimes it exists budget-wise. But the idea of Malin to mix the psychological horror, the psychological thriller, sorry, with these slight horror elements, is this new? Maybe it's not new, but it hasn't been done lots of times. And definitely this kind of series, with the dynamic it has on all the new platforms, in the idea of binge watching, etc., it can have huge chances that would not have been possible 5 years ago. So yes, we think about this international approach, of course, yeah.
A very last one, maybe? No? So thank you for being here with us on stage, and thank you for staying with us until the end. So thank you everyone.
Thank you.